Okay, shall we make a start then, Glyn?
Yeah, that sounds a good plan. Do you want to kick the recording off, and then when that's up and running, we can get Andrew going?
I am all systems go on the recording.
Brilliant. Okay, we'll hand over to Andrew then.
Good morning, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for another show and share. The team have been working hard to get this to present to you today, and we'll update you on what's been happening. Just a reminder about our project ambition. So to work together to design and build a benefits and housing needs service that we're proud of and confident in delivering. Service which is understood, fair, accessible and beneficial to our residents. I'm sure we'll all agree that that's a worthy ambition and something that we should strive towards. You'll also hopefully be familiar with this. If you're not, where have you been? This is our tube map for delivering services and identifying which customers need what sort of assistance in their goal towards a settled home and sustaining a tenancy. So we've got the orange line, which is for those customers who need the least intervention, who are most able to help themselves. We'll provide them with the tools they need and the encouragement to achieve those things on their own. The other two blue lines are on there. The lighter one is for those residents that need a slightly more hands-on approach, who need directing towards their own solutions to find a settled home. And the darker line is there for those customers that we identify that need a more hands-on approach, where they need clear support, possibly from a multidisciplinary plan, and working collaboratively with our colleagues in other departments so that we can meet their sometimes complex needs. And there's a spur line off of there, which is the light grey line at the top, which is for those that just need advice and information and aren't necessarily looking towards us to help meet a need to find a home. And this last one for me sort of condenses that information into a slightly different format. Those are at the very sort of bottom left with MDCs, that's multidisciplinary teams, those that need the greatest level of support. We anticipate that that's probably the smallest proportion of our customers, our residents. Then we have the light blue line, those that need coaching and support. And that will be a fairly large number of clients. And the outer line, those that are self-supporting, they have high levels of strengths and assets, so they don't need the level of intervention. The tools that we provide them will help them find their own solutions towards solving their homelessness or housing needs. So at this point, I hand over to Claire. Claire and I, for those that don't know, share the same birthday. Not the same year, as you'll no doubt guess. Sadly, Claire got all the brains and good looks, and I didn't. So there you go. Over to you, Claire.
Thank you, Andrew. That's probably the best intro I've ever had. You can come again in a fortnight's time. So just to recap over what we talked about 2 weeks ago. So last time we had an update from Glyn on training on new tools and an update on the social workers. We also had updates on embedding tools in the service. This was mainly around snapshot and shared plan. And we had a guest speaker from the Single Homeless Prevention Service updating on how they will be working with us in the future. So moving on, what we're showing you today. So again, we've got updates on embedding tools in the service. That's from Dean and Tunji, one on training and one on the work that's been going on with shared plan at customer services. We've got Marcia talking about the lettuce policy review. Glyn's going to update on the COVID test and trace project that's due to go live. And Lorraine's going to be talking about the mental health wellbeing training. But before we begin, just a quick update on where we are with our social workers. So Sibongale started on Monday. She came with myself and Jan Clark to visit some hostels, which included Median Road and Royal Park. She was at the greenhouse yesterday and has been teaming up with Carol Gale to get an insight into some of the cases that she's going to be working with. And then, as you'll see from the slide, the next step, we've got a meeting coming up with Adult Social Care and the East London Foundation Trust to kick off the pilot and really start to see how she fits into the service. So I'm not sure if she's on the call today. She might be. If so, a very, very big welcome from everybody to you, Sibongale. So embedding tools into the practice. We're going to talk, Dean's going to talk about training, and Tunji's going to talk about shared plans at triage. So I'm going to hand over to Dean.
There you go. Sorry, I was on mute. I was speaking. I should know better, really, shouldn't I? Anyway, okay. So my name's Dean. So, 1/3 of the training team. So currently we'll be delivering training on single view and its new tools. So we've been rolling this out for a bit now, but what we're doing, the idea of single view really is to recognise the value of every customer interaction that we have, to empower the officers really to make informed decisions when it comes to the decision making process. So the single view and its tools, who's it for? Well, it's for everybody really. Anybody that starting the organisation would need to be shown how to use single view and the associated tools. All existing officers also will need to be shown how to use single view and the tools and how it can benefit them in their day-to-day work activities. So it's still a bit surprising that when we were doing the training from the 8th of October, that some people are still not completely sure of using single view and what it can do for them. So obviously the training addresses these issues. So like I said, the training's been started to roll out since the 8th of October. We've got dates coming up, obviously, throughout November and so on, but we've had to, for various reasons, put it on hold as we all are aware of the current IT situation. I avoid using the word C because I was told not to use the word C, but you can appreciate our systems are suffering at the moment, but we will put more dates on for single view so that everybody across the housing needs and benefits teams will see single view and how they can use it in their best work activities. So we go on the next slide, please. Just used to doing it. So yeah, we've got a load of training courses coming up. We've just recently, yesterday, did some training with our new Riverside partners who are going to help with single homeless people. So we do have gambling related harm training coming up. I think a lot of you who are on the call might have already booked onto that. We've got a new complaint system that we've got training being delivered on shortly. It's coming in soon. Domestic violence awareness training, Google Forms and Sheets and Gmail suite training. So we've got some we're ongoing delivering on Google Sheets and Forms and Gmail to help people really get familiarised themselves how they can use these to benefit their work. We've got the 2 new social workers that Claire's already mentioned. So we're going to be doing a whole suite of training for them around housing needs and benefits so that they can obviously best work in the best possible way. Mental health wellbeing training. Okay, so we've been rolling this out for a bit now. Lorraine's going to talk more about it, so I won't spoil her glory by talking about it now. I'll let her do that. Customer service excellence course. We've been running this since 2013, believe it or not, and it's all for anybody really that's has a need for customer service training. We do it for all new starters, as we know. We've also got coaching sessions available, and we've got obviously our upcoming new starter program for the applications for the new roles that we've advertised recently. So we look forward to meeting new people and training them. Just the last slide. Okay, so this is a bit of just a little quick add-in. Due to the current situation, some people are struggling with finding access to IT systems, but there are a load of e-learning tools that the L&T team have developed over the years. Now, I've not listed them all here, but this just gives you a flavour of all the types of e-learning that you can log on and do. should you be needing to do something. There's a whole load of stuff around benefits to remind you on how to process claims and the different ins and outs of it, and also around soft skills, but there's all stuff on housing needs, evictions and so on, the e-learning courses that you can attend. So if anybody needs to, they can log on via the e-learning Hackney web page, and then you can access a whole suite of e-learning courses that the L&D team have put together over the years that can help you update yourself and your skill set. I think that's it from me, isn't it?
Good morning, everybody. My name's Tunji. I'm one of the customer services supervisors for the front of house stroke customer services team. We have been involved in an experimental project around shared plan, which occurs after triage before a homeless assessment. So when somebody approaches a council and states that they're homeless, the initial part is the officers will take some basic information from them, whether or not, how long they've been living in Hackney, what happened, etc. We then give them a list of documentation that they need to bring to a housing assessment interview that they have with a duty officer. That's what we've done using the shared plan, is to consolidate that. And now we have a situation where we've got more and more customers coming in. We're using the shared plan, and what we'll do is we'll give them a list of documents that they will need to upload. There's a video that they will need to watch. There's a quiz that they need to do, and there are also several different things that we can ask them for. And what it does do is get across the key messages about private versus social housing. And I'm sure you will all know that there is a massive lack of social housing available, not only in Hackney, but across the country. And we need to manage people's expectations about what they can expect when they present as homelessness. And that is basically put them in a position where we can prepare them to go down the path of private housing. Basically, the shared plan will help customers arrive at better prepared for the assessment that they attend, where they have quite an in-depth interview with a housing officer. Next slide, please. So basically what we've been doing, the triage officers, that's my staff, the people I work with, will take an initial phone call, take some basic information from a customer. And once that information has been populated in Jigsaw, the staff will then populate a Google Sheet. The Google Sheet puts information onto a spreadsheet, and then it goes to myself and a colleague. And what we do is prepare the shared plan using single view. And we will copy and paste a set of actions that the customers are expected to follow into the shared plan. And once that's done, it's personalized for each individual, gives them the date of their appointment, gives them a list of documents that they need to upload, as mentioned, asks them to look at a video and also take a quiz. It gives them a far, far better idea about where they stand and what will be expected of them and what they can expect in terms of their pathway as they go into looking for accommodation. And once all that is done, the shared plan creates a link which we're then able to send to the customer via SMS. The customer then is expected to complete those actions before they attend the homelessness assessment, which obviously at this moment in time is done over the telephone. And the housing advice officer will use the housing plan as part of that assessment. It takes approximately 2 hours a day, and what I do is check responses from the customers. There's a lot of copying and pasting actions that customers are expected to take. They go into the share plan, and then literally there's a little link that once I click share sends an SMS directly to the customer, and over time they can go through the list, put the documentations together, upload the information that we need, but probably most importantly, look at the video and do the quiz so they end up with a far better understanding of their homelessness and the road that they will need to travel in terms of securing permanent accommodation, be that social housing or private rented accommodation. It's an experiment. It's something that we started probably a week ago. There are actually more than 7 shared plans that have been created, and there's I think we've probably got 15 or 16 that are still waiting to be done. But as you're all aware, we've had 1 or 2 issues, which I'll say nothing more about. In terms of the 60% and the fact that we've got people that have completed more and 1 action or more, there's probably more of them, but these things go out on a regular basis. And as a consequence, at the time of putting this presentation together, there were 4. I can guarantee you now that there are more. The video has been viewed by a lot more people because people find it very easy to view videos. They can do it while they're traveling, earphones in, and have a quick look while they're on the bus. And just looking at how we've done so far, the work in the background, i.e. preparing the shared plan, is time consuming, and moving forward I'm confident that a lot of it will become automated, but in the interim the things that we need to do as a team is make sure that those shared plans go out, are populated correctly so the customers are aware of what it is that they need to do and when they need to do it. We'll continue to measure the engagement from customers, and we'll get feedback from the staff, because obviously it's an extra piece of work that they need to do. We've got probably another week of this pilot to go, and then we'll look at it, see how we're going, and hopefully move forward with it. If you're a housing officer, you're listening to this, please use the housing plan, because it is useful for you. It maps out what you need to look at and consider where your customers are concerned, and look out for updates and results at the next show and share, because I'm sure we'll have a lot more to tell you. That's basically it, and I'll move on to Marcia now, who'll talk about the lettings policy review.
Right. Good morning, everyone. I'm here today to just give you a bit of background on the current lettings review. So a bit of background, it's part of the Mayor's manifesto commitment, and the Mayor's commitment was to manage the rise in demand for social rented homes in Hackney. We will review how we allocate these homes to ensure the system is as fair and effective as possible, including developing local letting schemes and ensuring those in the highest needs are a priority. As we know, we are in a housing crisis, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. We are in a housing crisis. So the demand for social housing continues to grow, as Tunji mentioned in his recent presentation, and we need to have a policy in place that reflects the extent of the crisis and that residents are fully informed. So we cannot put in place a policy that is disingenuous or misleading. Our current policy is very generous, and I would say misleading, because it raises expectations, and we can't meet those expectations. And in turn, we get a number of complaints, a number of challenges, legal challenges, and obviously complaints going up from stage 1, stage 2, and to the Ombudsman. And we need to reduce those. So currently there are over 13,000 households on the housing register waiting list, but in the reality, the number of households with some level of housing need in the borough is significantly higher. And we do come across that on the downsizing and rehousing team, where we stumble across what I would say hidden households. So when we're decanting families from those large estates that we are going to demolish and rebuild, we often find when we are doing our housing needs appointments that there will be families that will have 3 or 4 generations of households living in the property. and they don't say anything. So you will get sometimes a grandfather, grandmother, they will have their children, and in turn another children, and sometimes even a fourth generation. So these households will live in what I will call unsatisfactory and overcrowded conditions, but they will not actually come and approach the council because of the affordability of the rent that they're paying. So we know that we are the decrease in social lets every year, 43% decrease since 2018-19, and 2019-20, the figures we're yet to publish, is seeing probably about the same amount, maybe a little bit less. Due to COVID, we're still finalising those figures. So the drop in social lets are consequences of a number of factors. We had right to buy. Like I said, we have people staying put because of affordability. As we know, social rents are very, very low in comparison to the PRS. We have regeneration decants. I think over the past 7 years, we've probably rehoused about over 600 tenants, decanted them, and obviously now it's recanted, rehouse some of them, but that is a significant amount of properties that don't become available for people on the waiting list. Obviously, there was a rise in rehousing demand, DV cases, gang-related cases, antisocial behaviour cases, people living much longer, management transfers, and also people with significant medical needs. So I'll give you a bit of a progress update in what we've done so far. Jennifer, myself, Andrew, and James Goddard and Ian have met with a briefing with the mayor. We work alongside the lead member for housing, Rebecca Rennison, and we are now proposing that the policy that we are proposing will go to the Labour group, and I think that is going to be sometime next month. We are also going to work alongside the comms team and develop a strategy, because we know that housing and social housing is very contentious and highly politicized. So any changes, we know the residents are going to be unhappy who is not able to join when the new review goes live. We know that is going to be there's going to be a lot of complaints, and the surgeries are going to be filled up with residents complaining to the councillors. So we need to start the work now to address why we need to make the changes to the current policy. We've also carried out 2 workshops with members, and it's been very positive. They're aware there is a need to change the policy because the policy is no longer fit for purpose. There is also a project group that Pat is working on, Pat Parkinson. She's working with a project delivery group in ICT, and they're looking at the project moving away from universal housing to a cloud-based interface and a database to manage the housing register once it's built. We hope that will be successful, but in the current climate and the C word, we're hoping that we don't get affected when we do go live with the policy. So the new policy will focus on residents with a significant housing needs, those who are severely overcrowded, and that's lacking 2 bedrooms, those with a medical need, where the property they currently reside in, their home is no longer fit for the purpose because of their medical need and exasperated by their current accommodation, those with a significant social needs, and those are domestic violence cases, gang-related cases, and our homeless households. We're also going to be putting in a provision where households who are seeking to access specialist housing proper accommodation, like older persons units, those downsizing, also key workers, we are looking at living rent. So they need to be registered on the waiting list to be able to access those types of accommodation. And we will have a cohort of people that will be given access to the register, but with a lower priority. So restricting the housing register to households with a significant need or a specialist need, we are proposing that we're going to reduce the housing register from 13,000 to about 7,000. And that really means that we'll be carving off the general band and the reserve band. So the general band are for households who lack 1 bedroom, and the reserve band are for those who are already housed adequately. In our previous lettings policy, we did not take off households that already, if you're all adequately housed, the political stance was we would not take anyone off the household. This lettings policy is going to be looking at, hopefully, everyone having to re-register. So we want to adopt and implement a less complex scheme, one that's more transparent, one that's less open to legal challenges, because we are very clear in what we are what the type of households and residents we would able to house in the reduction in properties that we have. So we're moving away from the emotive words of urgent and emergency, and simplifying the scheme to 3 bands: Band A, Band B, and Band C. And in regards to who will, the categories that will go into each of the individual bands, we haven't sort of put anything in concrete, but the Band A will be emergency cases, i.e. for someone's experienced a fire, flood, and they need to move urgently, and they can't remain in their home because the home's no longer, or complete disrepair cases. Those with a significant need, we're looking at homeless households, and they will be probably placed in Band B, sorry. And those to be placed in Band B will be like our older person's households, or those residents who want to apply for the live-in rent accommodation. So one of the key areas that, or the, what shall I say, the most concerns for the members was their constituencies who are, what's going to happen to those residents and those households who are no longer qualified to join the register. They know they're going to get an influx into their surgery, and it will mainly affect what I would say are residents who are already in social housing and lack 1 bedrooms. So we're looking at tenants or housing association residents where they've joined our register because they're in a 2-bed, but they need a 3-bed. We are going to be working alongside Hackney Housing. James Hunt is adopting a 13 routes to housing, and we'll be working alongside him to be able to assist the tenants who will no longer qualify to join the housing register because they lack 1 bedroom into other routes to go into housing in regards to mutual exchanges, and working alongside RPs so that they can also assist us with the stock that they have, and also raising the profile of home swapper. So what's next? Like I said, we've currently briefed the members who are very receptive to the proposals. We are currently working on further development with the project team in ICT. In November, we are hoping and proposing that a report will go to the Cabinet with the list of our proposals. November to January, Andrew's team will be carrying out a full public consultation, and we'll probably generate a lot of responses, I'm sure, because social housing is very contentious. January to February 2021, we're looking at producing a report for the council, and we're hoping that in June 2021, we have live implementation. Thank you for listening. And now I'm going to hand you over to Glyn.
Hi, everyone. Thanks very much for that, Marcia. That was really interesting. So I'm just going to talk briefly about the test and trace support payment scheme that's being brought in. This is a scheme that was introduced by government that was effective from the 28th of the 9th, 20, and local authorities is expected to make payments on it from the 12th of the 10th, so a couple of days ago. Anyone eligible, so anyone who's having to isolate due to test and trace, can get, and fits the other criteria, can get £500. The expected volumes at the point that the scheme was introduced, the government's expected volumes for Hackney were about 4 or 5 a day. based on our current rate of COVID-19. And there, alongside it, there's also a discretionary scheme, which I'll talk about in a bit more detail. In terms of who's eligible for this, it isn't anyone who's having to isolate. They also have to have been kind of officially told to isolate by the NHS Test and Trace service and have the unique number to prove that. Got to be aged over 16, eligible for public funds. For us, they have to be living in Hackney, and crucially, they have to be working, also, working whether employed or self-employed, and they have to be able to prove that they're going to lose income as a result of having to isolate. So if they're getting full sick pay or full pay, or they can still work somehow from home, they're not eligible. They need also to be on one of the qualifying benefits, so universal credit, working tax credit, employment support allowance, and so on. And they have to have been told to stay at home and self-isolate by the Test and Trace service on or after the 28th of September. In terms of the discretionary scheme, it's pretty much the same as the scheme ahead of we've just looked at, but they don't necessarily have to have be on a qualifying benefit, but they do have to be able to prove they're in serious hardship as a result of having to isolate, and they have to be working. In terms of how far we've progressed with getting this up and running, we've got a Google form which is on our website, which applicants can and are filling in. That goes into a spreadsheet which Dave's team, and also at the moment some of Dina's team, are currently looking at and making decisions on. We've just yesterday got access to the Test and Trace system, so we can check whether people have had that number and they've got a valid number. We're also getting, or we have got access to Searchlight to check what benefits they're on. There is a slight issue, I think, around that at the moment due to the current problems we have. So far this morning, we've had about 66 applications. So that's more than the expectation was, and it probably reflects the fact that the rate of COVID-19 has, gone up probably 3 or 4-fold since those predictions were made. And now I shall hand over to Lorraine, who's going to be talking about the mental health and wellbeing training.
So, hi everyone. My name's Lorraine, and I'm 1/3 of the learning and development team. I'm just here to talk to you a bit about the mental wellbeing training that I've been delivering on behalf of the public health team. But before I go on to the course content and some of the feedback that I've gotten, just want to give you some stats that are specific to Hackney with regards to mental wellbeing. So currently, mental ill health is the top reason for sickness absence, including for long-term absence. 70% of employees responding to the Employee Health and Wellbeing Survey reported that they had experienced stress at work, and 20% reported that they felt stressed all the time. But just over 20% of employees said that they had considered seeking mental health support since working for Hackney. So that gap there between people feeling stressed at work or feeling stressed all the time and actually getting help is quite big. So that's one of the key reasons for this training. In terms of the course content, we look at stats. We give you stats regarding mental well-being, try and help break the stigma around it. There's also a mental well-being assessment, and that gives you a chance to kind of self-reflect and see where you are. And we look at the main campaign right now with regards to mental well-being, which is the 5 to Thrive campaign. And it looks at 5 areas that you can engage in to feel good and function well. And that's aiming to improve your mental well-being. Also giving you tips on how to improve your mental well-being whilst working from home in these unprecedented times. And also we signpost you to places where you can get more support, including the Employee Assistance Programme, and also give you tips on where to signpost your clients. If you're engaged in conversations with them and you feel like they need more support with their mental well-being, we give you some tips on where to signpost them to. Next slide, please. So since January, we have delivered 12 sessions to 133 members of staff from benefits and housing needs, customer services and revenues. And we've got great feedback. So feedback scores of between 80 to 95%, meaning that people have found it very useful. And I just included some of the feedback here. So some said it's helpful to be able to connect to other people on the course and share experiences. I like the conversation between officers about their mental well-being issues and listening to other experiences. Information provided was very useful, especially in these unusual times. The trainer was open-minded, gave us all ample time to contribute, was easy to talk to, and took great care in explaining. All in all, it was brilliant. Really enjoyed the session, was helpful on a personal and professional level, and some excellent tips, and great to see the amount of resources available to staff and Hackney residents. Often we receive emails, but we don't have time to really look into the links. So it was nice to have the time to do so. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much for that, Lorraine. So just a quick shout out here, really. We're just interested in getting super users for some of the tools that are currently out there. So for example, for single use, single view, shared plan and snapshot. And the idea of a super user is just someone who's really well versed in using these tools, can really see the potential of them, and then other users can kind of gain from their expertise and can kind of learn how it can benefit kind of themselves and their customers by using them. So I know that we've got people out there who are real proponents for, you know, some of these things. So it would really be great if, you know, their knowledge and expertise could be shared alongside, you know, the training and the videos that Dean was talking about earlier. So if you're interested in doing this, that would be really, really great. Just drop something in the chat and or just drop us an email to Claire or I, and we'll catch up with you and we'll talk about how we can get that up and running. Okay, and nearly finished. We're nearly at an end. We've just got a really, really short activity where we're just trying to gather a bit more feedback on the tools that we use, because specifically in this case, single view and the snapshot, because we know from talking to individuals, people often have some really great suggestions on how these might be improved. But what we thought would be good is if we could get some sort of view on how popular some of those suggestions were, and also to get some more suggestions from kind of people, so people to be able to just make their own ideas about and give their own ideas about the tools. Caveat for that is probably that we're not necessarily just about to jump on this and build all these and work on all these enhancements, but we thought it would be really useful if we could get a clear idea of what direction people thought these tools should go in. So I will, this is on Menti, so I'm just going to go into the Menti screen, and if you can go into those links, which I think Claire's probably going to post into the chat, and then we can see if this works. Okay, so give a bit of a chance for people to log into this and to and for people to actually kind of submit some answers to the questions. But the first question is, which single view enhancement would be most useful? And if you can't get into Menti on your phone, then don't worry. I think Claire's going to post the questions in the chat, and people can just write in the chat which one is the one that jumps out for them. I can see somebody's already on it, so that's great. And yeah, so the one that people are going for at the moment, the NI number and date of birth, that's something which was suggested, you know, quite some time ago by quite a few people. The show weekly housing benefit and show next payment for housing benefit, that's something that customer services suggested. It would be really useful. It's one of the questions they get asked most frequently when they're on the telephone to someone. So, you know, how much am I getting? When am I going to next get paid? So maybe if we had a few more customer services people, that would be reflected there. but it looks like at the moment there's a fairly clear winner, but we'll leave it a bit longer because we've got how many people on the call? I think we've got about 80, 90. So we've got a few more people that could vote.
More than that, there's 117 at the moment.
117, great stuff. So get voting. And if you can't vote, just
pop your choice in the chat if you can't get on Menti.
What else have we got? Show housing benefit recovery details. So I think that's what's suggested by a few people, because it's a good way of picking up whether people might be struggling with debt, and therefore how we might intervene with them in relation to that. But yeah, the looks like the most prominent one is searching for customers.
Yeah, there's some more votes coming in for Nino in the chat, Glyn.
Yeah, okay. And at the moment, as we know, we can just search on names for people. Plus, you can also, as you've probably seen recently, you can also see details of social housing or council tenant housing people's tenancies, which is only just recently appeared since the manager tenancy project's finished. Show weekly housing benefits, getting some votes, so that's good. Okay, give it a couple more minutes on this. Though it does look like we're getting a fairly obvious trend in terms of what people would like to see. As I mentioned, at the end of this, you'll get a chance to actually submit your own suggestions as well. I know there was a suggestion related to, I think it was the tenancy date, which I haven't got in here because I just needed a bit more clarification on that. So if anyone's got any ideas of data which relates to data you might find in UH, then you can submit that at the end. Okay. 30. Just leave it a minute or two more just to see if we can get a bit more clarity on some of those other ones, on the show weekly housing benefit and the show housing benefit recovery. Okay, don't think we're moving that much further now, so I think we'll move on to the next slide if I can. Oh, how do I do that? Okay. Just right, okay. Sorry, my lack of experience on Menti. I had practiced this. So this is the next question. Which snapshot enhancement would be most useful? Okay, so for this we had slightly less suggestions because I think we've got, snapshots are new at all. So, people we've had less come back on that. But these are some of the things that I've heard people suggest. And it looks like the date of this is a lot closer. Well, to see.
That was almost on cue when you said that.
Yeah, up and down, isn't it? Shall we refer customers? So that first one is a point that a couple of the officers from the greenhouse suggested to me, where they were saying it's great that when you click a vulnerability, you can see, or a strength, you can see all the places we might refer that customer to, which kind of relates to that vulnerability or strength. But they said it would be quite good if you could, when you do that referral, when you do say, oh, well, you've got a mental health issue, possibly speak to Mind, if you could somehow demonstrate that clearly on the snapshot. At the moment, I think what you do is put in notes, oh yeah, I've referred this customer to Mind or wherever. And I think that's, that's useful. But we said it would be quite good if you could have that automatically linked if you did that referral. And the ability to edit existing snapshots, I think, again, we don't really want the idea of people editing sort of past snapshots, because they are a picture of that person at that point in time. But this is where maybe someone's updated a snapshot and maybe they've made a mistake and they want to kind of change what they've put in at that time. Okay, and the last one, again, that was from someone at the greenhouse, and they were talking about how when they're doing triage, they're sometimes filling in similar data to which they might put in snapshot. So it would be good if when they were doing this, they were prompted to, fill out the snapshot too, because one, it will prompt them to also refer the customer to those different services. And two, obviously, if it goes into snapshot, then everyone can see it. It's not just confined to Jigsaw. So that was the logic behind those ones. I don't know how to go on to the next slide automatically. I'll just do what I did last time, which is kind of escape and back to the.
So most of the votes in the chat, Glyn, are for ability to edit, and there's 1 or 2 for referring customers.
Okay.
Mostly ability to edit.
Because on the Menti, it looks like it's really, really, really tight. It's kind of going up and down. Okay, I'll go on to the next slide. Okay, so we'll leave it just a couple more minutes, or 1 more minute, and then we'll just go on to the next one. Okay, that's pretty static, I think now. So I'll go. I can go on to the next one. Right. Must be an easier way of doing this. I'll work it out for next time.
We can all see it and it's working, so don't worry about it, Glyn.
Whoa. What is that?
Oh, that's pretty.
Yes, I've no idea what that means. Okay, sorry. Let's see if I can get back. Oh yeah, can you tell us of any other ways we can prove single view or snapshot? So that's just any suggestions people have. People should be able to write in a text box, hopefully, and any suggestions you have for either of those ideas, either of those tools, and we can just gather those and look back and see which of those are most popular as well, because we probably haven't got a full view of what people think at the moment. Again, if you can't get it into the Menti app, then just drop it into the chat and that's fine. We'll make sure we save all of those. Okay.
While guys are typing in and putting their stuff in, Glyn, what have people found also? Maybe some of the guys on the call want to tell us what they found the most useful thing about single view while the guys are still filling in.
That would be great to know.
Anyone want to comment? I know Genevieve used it a lot. Yomi, you still using it all the time?
Yes, I am. Yes, I use single view all the time. And what I find is that it's got most of the details I want. The notes are really helpful. And because we piloted it because my team piloted it because it was started by Glyn, and we've used it the longest. So we are getting the benefits now.
Yeah.
You sound like you could be a super user, Yomi.
I think he's just volunteered.
He's just volunteered, hasn't he? He's pretty much, I think he's almost certainly volunteered, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I like to be involved in any project that will help us, basically.
Brilliant.
Gain knowledge and share knowledge, basically. That's
excellent.
Good.
Hi, Jen. It's Sam. I don't know if you can hear me properly.
We can, yeah, far away.
We use it for the rehousing, so that we can pull up information for cases like A socials, B socials, management transfers, whereby sometimes the information is so buried in the system we're unable to just go in and do a manual search. So we found it really useful, especially for management transfers for vulnerable elderly applicants, where their IDs, they can't get to their IDs. So they might be actually on Camino, and it helps us with shortening the timeline for the process. So it's really good.
Nice.
Right.
Could I add to that?
Yeah.
Just in terms of sort of front of like customer services and etc. Single view is ideal, literally because it's a single point where you can get information that you need quickly. When you're having the sort of issues that we have with VMware, etc., you know that you don't have to go to VMware to find things out. You can go to single view. The information is there, and you can like move forward, especially when you're doing triages. And our guys are doing sort of like 5, maybe 6 triages a day. Yeah. The information that you need to move your case forward is readily available, and that's the best thing about it.
Good. Is there anything that continuously comes up as not being there, Tunj, from your staff?
I have to be honest, it's not anything that I've had a conversation about.
That's a good sign.
It would make more sense to talk to Emery because he tends to take lead in those terms. But I know that a lot of the guys are using it, which is useful, and they are finding it useful.
Brilliant. Good. Oh, look, we've got some results there, Glenn.
I wasn't sure. Okay, that's brilliant. So review fields for documents, give claimants simplified options, explain other options, like a quick summary view of the application so that I can see entitlement or income details at a glance. Okay, so that's almost like the tabs at the top at the moment, but maybe something slightly different there. Search by housing benefit reference. So that's a bit similar to what we were talking about earlier, wasn't it? Okay, what else have we got there? Okay.
I think there was one on there, Glenn, about being able to search by address, and I believe that's gone live already.
Yeah,
in single view.
Yeah, it's searching by address if they've for council tenancy. So that's something I guess that people need to be aware of.
Good.
Just trying to see what other suggestions we've got in there. I'll actually get to that screen.
Oh, Glenn, you're still.
You wouldn't believe I actually practice using Menti.
Oh.
Yeah, I need Emily to give me a run through.
Crash course,
yeah. I get results. Oh, hold on, download results. Let's do this.
there you go. Brilliant.
Right. Okay.
Add a wildcard function. I like that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, what else have we got on there?
I don't understand Dean's question, Claire. Well, my question is showing was about linking docs back to other housing systems from single view. I can see it now. Oh, so that's already there.
Yeah, sorry. I couldn't see it previously. It's just about postman. Just good timing. It was just about from the training that we've been delivering so far. People said it's great that you can see the documents within single view for the document upload tool. They were just asking those documents fed back into the other housing systems such as UH and Jigsaw or even Academy.
Oh, that's a good bit in the chat from Dion. She's saying she was dealing with a person who was a victim of domestic abuse, didn't know her details, and she was able to single view. That's good. During this, the odds of you knowing your reference numbers are fairly slim, I would imagine.
Okay, right. So I think we'll gather all of those. We can download all of these. I think at the moment as a PDF because of, and then we'll just put all those in the kind of backlog of items along with the feedback we've had on the kind of particular previously suggested ideas, and then they'll feed into kind of what we need, what we need to look at next, maybe. With as I say, the caveat that it's not necessarily the case at the moment. We're just about to start doing these developments, but we do need to know what people think about the kind of current tools and how they can be improved. Okay, right. So that's great. So unless anyone has got anything else to add, then I think that's it. And we'll catch up with you all in a couple of weeks' time, if not before. And those of you who've voted or volunteered to be a super user, we'll catch up with you in the meantime. Okay. Thanks everyone. Thanks for all the speakers today.
Thanks to everyone.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Great session. Cheers, everyone. Good to see you all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye all.
Bye.